Welcome to No Filter with Debbie. I'm Debbie Schlussel. And you know what's driving me crazy? Bill Barr. William Barr, our Attorney General, at least I believe until Wednesday, because he is leaving before Christmas. He did an interview where he said that he did not believe he should appoint any kind of special counsel. So, no special counsel into voter fraud or election fraud, and no special counsel into Hunter Biden. Now, I understand the election fraud. I think really it's kind of too late to do anything. If you want to stop dead people from voting in the future, that needs to be done at the state level. And each state's Republican Party, or if they have a Republican legislature, needs to tackle this. They should have done it before this election, and maybe we wouldn't have had this fiasco. And Trump might have still lost, and maybe he did lose. But we would know that one way or another, fair and square. We don't know that now because we know dead people voted. We know that they lessened the signature requirements and so on. I'm not talking about the endless 50 plus lawsuits that the president has lost, and he got slammed the Supreme Court. They wouldn't even hear it. And as I told you last week, I thought that they should have at least heard the case, and then they could have decided against him based on the evidence. They didn't even take it. But I don't think it's the place for an assistant attorney general, or a special counsel, rather. Apparently, there are some investigations into election fraud. If there weren't, they wouldn't, as I have told you on past shows, kicked out the Trump liaison to the Justice Department, who was trying to find out that information. They just kicked her out when she asked about election fraud investigations. But I think the Hunter Biden issue is much more important. It's much more front and center. It's much bigger. Yes, it doesn't deal with our whole nation's elections, but like I said, that's something for each state Republicans to take up. We know the Democrats will never do that. They have an interest in voter fraud continuing and in dead people continuing to vote forever. That's what they want. That's their voter base, the dead people, the ghosts, the ghouls, the goblins. But I really think Hunter Biden should be investigated. And it's just incredible what Bill Barr is saying as his reasoning for not appointing a special counsel. So we know that Hunter Biden is being investigated. We know he had a lot of very highly unusual dealings. We know he and his associates wrote emails and messages about both his father and his uncle, James Biden, taking part and getting money. Remember, we told you 10% for the big guy? Remember that? And the big guy is apparently Joe Biden. We know that Joe Biden was identified as one of the office users for the list of key holders to the office that Hunter Biden was using for this scam of massive millions of dollars from foreign countries that want influence and are bought influence with him. We know that the widow of the former mayor of Moscow wired overnight one night, just out of the blue, $3.5 million to Hunter Biden. Just cause? No, not just cause. She was buying influence of some kind. We know that Burisma, the energy company in Ukraine, paid him tens of thousands, actually hundreds of thousands of dollars. Actually, almost $1 million, maybe more, because we know that it was something like $80,000 a month. We know that the Chicoms gave him and his associates over $1 billion, allegedly, when you add everything up that they paid for him to do business with them, and to a bank owned by that is owned in part by the Chicoms, but also by Biden Associates. So there was a lot of benefiting going on. And we cannot have a president's son selling America out to foreign businesses. I mean, we heard left and right about the Trump kids because, God forbid, they should actually make money in the real estate business and their hotel business. We heard about this ad nauseum, ad absurdum for more than 4 years from the left. But we can't investigate this guy that gets $3.5 million wired to him in the middle of the night from the former mayor of Moscow's widow? Why did that happen? What was that money for? Hunter Biden has never answered any questions about that. and neither has Joe Biden, except 2 softball interviews with Stephen Colbert, a late night unfunny so-called comedian and host, where he said, "Oh, I'm very proud of my son. I'm sure he did nothing wrong." What's he going to say? "Oh, my son is terrible. He sold us out. He should be prosecuted." Said no politician ever. That never happens. It's not going to happen here. So Bill Barr's reasoning for not appointing a special counsel is this. He says that the investigations into Hunter Biden are going along. There's FBI agents investigating it. There's assistant U.S. attorneys and U.S. attorneys in Delaware investigating it and running the show. And he thinks it's going on nicely and they're acting responsibly. And he expects that they will continue to act responsibly while Joe Biden is president. Are you serious? Are you kidding? That they are not going to just let this take place? They're going to let this investigation take place? Are you serious? You would believe this? They are not going to let this happen. I told you this on the show before. Do not expect that this investigation will go any further once Joe Biden is president. That's how they roll. That's how they work. That's how they function. The Democrats, the liberals, the Biden types, the Kamala types, Kamala Harris, they are not going to let this go any further. So Bill Barr says that he expects the Biden administration to act responsibly. And I expect a python or a cobra to act responsibly and not eat a live mouse when I throw it in the cage. It's not going to happen. They are not going to let this proceed further. They're going to look, they are the cobras, they are the pythons. They are looking at this investigation like a live mouse. They are going to gobble it up, spit it out, throw it away. You will never hear anything about this again. And you know who's going to continue to trade on his father's name, despite the fact that he promised he wouldn't if his father got elected? Hunter Biden. Listen, he is not going to change his stripes, his spots, what have you. He just isn't. And neither is Joe Biden. Joe Biden is a dishonest person who has lied throughout his career, who's committed fraud. He lied about where he was in his class. He lied about scholarships. He lied about speeches he didn't write. He's just a liar. He's a fraud. People who engage in fraudulent activity are not going to let the Justice Department act responsibly, especially not when it comes to his own son. It ain't gonna happen. So don't hold your breath. And Biden's campaign and transition spokespeople are saying, oh, you know, Joe Biden, he's interviewing all these candidates for attorney general. He's interviewing Doug Jones, the soon-to-be former senator from the great state of Alabama. He's interviewing others that are rumored to be on his list. And he hasn't asked a single one of them about, would you investigate my son Hunter if I appoint you? Would you stop that investigation? First of all, we don't know that he didn't ask them that. I'll bet you he may have. Secondly, do you think that Joe Biden and his transition team would ever say, oh yeah, we are carefully screening candidates for attorney general, and if they say they're going to investigate Hunter Biden and continue this investigation after Joe Biden's sworn in, they don't get the job? You think they're going to say that? Said no president-elect ever, especially not Joe Biden. Trust me, even if they aren't asking, once Joe Biden is sworn in, it's communicated. It doesn't have to be verbally communicated. Everyone knows you cannot investigate the president's son if you are the president's attorney general. That only happens if the president's son is Donald Trump, if the president's daughter, is Don Trump Jr., if the president's daughter is Ivanka Trump. It ain't gonna happen with these Bidens. They are sleazebags. They've gotten special treatment in criminal cases. There's all kinds of stuff. And we're going to talk more about this in the coming weeks because I want you to hear more about the Biden family. And I've told you about some of it, about his daughter, about his niece, and her favorable treatment for drunk driving. You are going to hear more. All right, when we come back, I'm going to tell you something else that is driving me nuts. This is the latest public official not to listen to the advice they gave us about Christmas, about Thanksgiving, and so on. That and more after these messages on No Filter with Debbie on Back.
Beck News brings you real people and real news. Every weekday on KNDB, KNDM, and KRDK. Start your evening with the Dr. Duke Show at 4. Take a fresh look at current events with Ladies of Another View at 4:30. Go down the road with Joel at 5:30. Watch No Apologies with Becker at 9. Cap off your night with No Filter with Debbie at 10. Beck News. Real people, real news.
Capital City Restaurant Supply is your one-stop shop for quality restaurant products for the large to small kitchens. Commercial-grade restaurant and bar supplies, limb game processing equipment, refrigeration, dinnerware, and smallware. We sell everything including the kitchen sink from trusted manufacturers for the chef and all of us. Open to the public since 1971, we are veteran-owned and North Dakota proud. Let us take care of your restaurant and home kitchen needs today by visiting us at 1414 Interstate Loop in Bismarck or on the web at capitalcityrestaurantsupply.com.
Hi, I'm Dennis Haugen, along with my sons Andy and Mike, and we're showing our support for wind energy in North Dakota.
Wind energy has provided farmers like us with a steady stream of income that's not tied to the weather like crops and cattle are.
Another bonus is that wind farm owners are required to maintain the roads leading up to the turbines. Because of that, oftentimes these roads are the best in the county.
Wind energy is good for landowners, it's good for the land, it's good for our economy, and it's good for North Dakota.
For the greatest selection and full menu offering, it's the Four Seasons Restaurant and Ice Cream Parlor in Garrison. Succulent sandwiches, big breakfasts served all day, and delicious desserts. Easy access in and out for campers and RVs. The Four Seasons Restaurant at the top of Main Street, Garrison.
Some things in life are hard. That's why banking shouldn't be. Cornerstone Bank.
Welcome back to No Filter with Debbie on Beck. So, yes, the virus is still going on. Yes, the vaccine is not a panacea. Yes, we're still seeing all kinds of stories of things happening to people. And also, more important in my opinion, all kinds of stories of the hypocrites in office and in positions of high influence, people who've lectured us what to do, not to have Thanksgiving, not to have Christmas, stay home alone and be miserable. And yet, when it comes to them, it's do as I say, not as I do. Rules for thee, but not for me. So, guess who's on that list now? Deborah Birx. Yes, as I call her, the Scarfinator. Yeah, all those horrible scarves. I don't think we're going to see them come Joe Biden's administration. Not a reason I want him to be president. Believe me, I wish President Trump were reinaugurated on the 20th, but it ain't gonna happen, unfortunately. So we have the Scarfinator, Deborah Birx. She is a fraud because she was telling us how she skipped this, she skipped that. She lectured us, don't go to this family event, don't go to that family event, don't do Thanksgiving together, it's dangerous. And guess what? She did Thanksgiving with 3 other generations of her family. And they all gathered at one of her fancy schmancy, swanky properties, one of her many vacation homes. Yes, she has several. They all gathered there in Delaware for Thanksgiving after she told us not to do it. All right? And now she's lying about it and she won't talk to AP. So Associated Press wrote a whole story about this. And they actually, I believe they had somebody watching that house. I think they got a tip, maybe a neighbor that doesn't like her, maybe somebody that hates those scarves. That would include me. And that person, for whatever reason, told the AP because the AP clearly staked out the house. They reported who was at the house, when, and so on. All right, so she went there. She would not talk to the AP. And in fact, she, in early April, said that she understood the sacrifices that many were making and said she couldn't visit her Potomac, Maryland home when one of her grandchildren had a high fever. I did not go there. You can't take that kind of risk. So that was in April, but here's what she said about Thanksgiving. She said that you can't do that. You shouldn't be in with various members of your family over Thanksgiving. She warned people. She said, don't do it. All right? And she said, you're not supposed to travel over Thanksgiving. She said, some people may have made mistakes over the Thanksgiving time period. They should assume that they were infected and they should quarantine. That's what she told the rest of us. She said some Americans went across the country or even into the next state for the holiday weekend, and she admonished them for having done so. She said it was going to spread COVID. Then she went to Maryland. I mean, not to Maryland, to Delaware. She lives mostly in Maryland. That's where her main abode is, but she went there. And she used all kinds of excuses. So she said that multi-households or various households should not get together. She said if people live with you regularly, that's your household. But if they live in a different house, that's not your household. And yet, she has her children, her parents, her grandchildren living in different households. They all went to the Delaware home. And then she said, oh, that was a multi-generational household. How is it a multi-generational household if they were each living in different homes? And she clearly told the rest of us, if you don't live in the same house, you're a different household. She said different households should not get together. Again, rules for thee, but not for me. Do as I say, not as I do. That's her. All right? And when AP asked her about it, these are all things she said on TV. When AP confronted her about it, she refused to speak, but other family members stuck up for her. She also said in a statement, I did not go to the Delaware home for the purpose of celebrating Thanksgiving. She said her family shared a meal together because they just happened to all be there. All these people from different houses in different states all just happened to be there. And that she really went there to winterize the property before a potential sale. And that she was too busy to do it except on Thanksgiving. Sure. You keep telling yourself that. Don't keep telling it to us because we don't believe you. She goes to Delaware to winterize a home to sell it on Thanksgiving. And her family members all just happen to be there. And what do you know? They also have a meal. And I'll bet you it was catered. I'll bet you anything. She's a very wealthy woman. Those scarves she wears, those Hermes scarves, they cost hundreds to thousands to at least $1,000. Those are very, very expensive. She's a rich lady. She could afford to stay separately and abide by the advice she gave the rest of us. There are a lot of families who could not afford to be separately. They have to live together. Maybe one of them can't afford to pay the rent anymore and they have to move in with others. And so on. They're the ones that were told not to get together for Thanksgiving. But she can do that because, she's really winterizing her house. And COVID knows that if you winterize your house, you won't catch it. If you're multi-generational household or whatever psychobabble gobbledygook she's telling us. So that's her. And we know this is everybody. This is Governor Newsom. This was the mayor of, El Paso, Texas. San Antonio. This was the mayor of Chicago, Lori Lightfoot. On more than one occasion, she told people not to get their hair cut. She went and got her hair cut at a beauty salon. She told people not to get together. She went to get together. She said, you can't eat out at this place or that place. You must social distance, wear a mask. She didn't do any of those things. These people are hypocrites. They just are. The governor of Illinois, Pritzker, his wife was traveling when he told people not to travel. She went to their estate in Florida. He wouldn't answer questions about it, said it's personal. Governor Cuomo said don't have 11 people, don't have more than 10 for Thanksgiving. He was going to have 11, don't have old people. He was going to have his 89-year-old mother. These people are frauds and hypocrites. Don't believe anything they say because they don't believe it. They only believe it for you. They want to exercise power over you and they want to control your lives. But when it comes to their own, nope. They get to do what they want. This is what happens in a dictatorship. This is what dictators do. We have to put an end to this once and for all. All right, when we come back, should they distribute the vaccine based on race? It's happening in 25 states. And even, yes, in North Dakota, this is happening. And I'll tell you how and why after these messages on No Filter with Debbie on Beck.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
In southwestern and south central North Dakota, on any given day at any given moment, a Dakota Community Bank and Trust customer is logging in or signing on to do their online or mobile banking. We believe that community banking can blend both the past with down-home customer service in-house and the future with modern banking conveniences and technology for our customers anywhere, like here or here, all while honoring our long-standing tradition of community-first oriented banking here at Dakota Community Bank and Trust.
My wife was diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's. We talked about it and we kind of decided we'd be a little bit proactive and try to start making provisions. So we started looking here, and Eventide worked out to be pretty much the perfect answer. I guess I didn't expect it to be so nice. The staff here are terrific. We enjoy it.
They say when the going gets tough, the tough get going. At OK Tire, we're here to keep you going. From Firestone tires and replacements to retreads and even Firestone tracks, we have you covered. Our certified Firestone experts are ready to get you back up and running, no matter if you're on site or in the field, saving you time and money. OK Tire, we keep the tough going.
Now is the best time to plan for your 2021 farm equipment needs. North Dakota-based Summers Manufacturing is currently offering early order savings. Take advantage of big savings on North America's broadest tillage line, including the Super Coulter Samurai and the innovative VRT Renegade, as well as the best built, best backed land rollers in the industry. Talk to your Summers dealer today or go to summersmfg.com to learn more about early order savings available on all Summers equipment.
Welcome back to No Filter with Debbie on Beck. So you're not going to believe this. This is so absurd and ridiculous, but it's even happening in North Dakota. So the CDC, yes, the Centers for Disease Control, has advised states to take into account their diverse populations and to give a priority to Black and Hispanic and Native American citizens for the vaccine before everybody else. Now, I've said on this show why I would not take the vaccine. I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I actually think vaccines are a very important public health initiative that does stop things like polio, which has been virtually eradicated in the United States. But I think there weren't enough long-term studies done on this. And I don't want to be the guinea pig that's going to see the side effects. And we've already heard so many stories. Now, there have been 3 stories. We only covered one of them. 3 stories just in Alaska of people going into anaphylactic shock. So I don't want one, but there are many people who do. And if they happen to be white, good luck with that because they're not a priority. Now, the Daily Mail made this map, and the map was all the states that have in place different guidelines about COVID that focus on race, on Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans. And there were 25 states. And I was going to show you the map, but the map is a lie. So I didn't ask my producer to show it to you because, again, it's a lie. It has blue states as the states that have these plans. And then it has some red states. And this is not about blue and red states with regard to the elections or Republican or Democrat, although it sort of tracks along with that. The more liberal states are the ones doing this, and the more Republican states are the ones that are not. But it shows North Dakota in red, saying that North Dakota doesn't have this policy, but it's actually a lie because North Dakota has this policy. Also, listen to this. North Dakota has developed maps by county to show minority groups and Native American communities to focus on. This is discrimination. This is outrageous. And if I were the relative of somebody who's like a senior citizen or somebody who has comorbidities like asthma or diabetes or something like that, cancer, and then they die because they were white and they did not get a priority, they were not prioritized and they did not get the vaccine, I would be outraged and I would probably file a lawsuit. This is disgusting. Why is North Dakota doing this? And then we hear from the public health official, Renee Mock, complaining all over the country to any media outlet that will talk to her and give her her 15 seconds, which has now become, unfortunately, more than 15 hours of fame. She's on MSNBC. She's whining to NBC News. She's whining to the New York Times that people are sending her hate mail. You know what? Welcome to being a public health official. That's part of your job. People are not going to agree with everything you do, and you have to develop a thick skin. If you wither when people throw insults your way, you are in the wrong job, the wrong line of work. And she is the one now. She should probably get more hate mail because she is involved in this map. Ridiculousness. This is absurd that they would prepare these maps, and I wonder how much money they're spending, that we should focus on minorities. As I've said on this show before, Blacks are just 2.3% of the population of North Dakota. So we're going to focus on them. And as I've also said on the show, Native Americans claim that they're their own country. They claim they're sovereign nations. You hear the Standing Rock Sioux tribe and the 3 tribes, the MHA tribe, saying, we're sovereign nations. We have our own license plates. We have our own tribal courts. We have our own tribal police. We have our borders. You have to honor them. And yet they take COVID money, billions of dollars, these Indian tribes, including the Cherokee Nation. They rely on the state for aid as well. And now they're getting priority when they're a separate country. Can you imagine if America made Canadians a priority? If North Dakota said, oh, we're going to identify where we have the most Canadians living here, and we're going to make them the priority. Forget the American taxpayer. Can you imagine that? But that's what's going on in North Dakota. And a lot of these states are doing this. And you know who was a proponent of this? Somebody I talked about before, Melinda Gates. Melinda Gates, whose area of expertise is I married a billionaire. That's it. That's all she has expertise in. And I don't know that she's just that expert in that either. She married one guy. So that's all she can talk about. But because he's worth billions and she shares in that money, suddenly she's a medical expert. So she is the one that has said that we should all be forced to take vaccines. She is the one that has attacked America as a vaccine nationalism country. Told you about that phrase that means that if you want to give it your own country first, you're a nationalist, you're bad, you're evil, you're a racist, you're a bigot. She was mad about that. She wanted to force everyone to take vaccines. She wants everyone to show us your papers, show us your papers. She wants that. And now she is behind this whole drive to focus on minorities. So every state has been advised to consider ethnic minorities as a critical and vulnerable group and to plan their vaccine distribution accordingly and give them a priority. It's called equitable access to diverse populations. Are you serious? Or health equity. You know what's the equity? It's called the free market, where everybody is judged by the same standards. If they want to give it to vulnerable populations first, there are a lot of white people with cancer and diabetes. There are a lot of fat white people. They're vulnerable too. This is absurd. It's wrong. In Maine, they have a racial ethnic minority COVID-19 vaccination plan in order to give preference to groups that have experienced rates of disease that far exceed their representation of the population. They also, in Michigan, my native state, where they're taking into account not only minority status, but what language you speak. So if you don't speak English, you get priority. Now, Michigan has a significant population of people who speak Arabic, who are largely from Yemen and Lebanon, mostly from Lebanon. Many of them are supporters of Hezbollah, the Islamic terrorist group that murdered more Americans than any other group other than Al-Qaeda. They murdered our Marines while they slept in Beirut. They murdered Navy diver Robert Dean Steedham on a plane. They trampled him to death and tortured him because he refused to denounce America. They murdered Colonel Rich Higgins, tortured him to death. They did many, many other attacks on Americans, and we're going to give them priority because they don't speak English, they speak Arabic. This is what is the reason our country is now mediocre, because we're following Melinda Gates. And yes, North Dakota is doing this too. This has got to stop. You know what? Pretty soon, everybody is going to be married to people that have some kind of minority blood in them of some kind or some ethnic blood, and everybody should be a priority then. This is absurd. Everybody's a human. Just give it to the people that are most vulnerable, not based on the color of their skin or what language they speak. How does language that you speak correlate to this anyway? We should treat everybody equally. If we did this for white people, it would be outlawed. It would be discrimination. People would be up in arms. And that's what this is, and they should be up in arms. All right, when we come back, the Vatican says that you can use aborted material. Are you serious? And that death on the plane, on that United flight. I have some observations about that. That and more after these messages on No Filter with Debbie. I'm back.
Howdy, folks. It's a Line Cafe. I reckon it's time you're due for a hearty meal. So saddle up for the day with one of our Hey Bossin' breakfast homemade soups. Fill your grill at a salad bar. Sink your teeth into our famous Line burger and barbecue ribs. Top it off with spoon rattling pie with a calm roll that's sure to put a smile on even the toughest outlaws. Shake the dirt off the boots each night and warm up with the game. Tell them about it, Stacy.
I can't wait to see you at the County Line.
Since opening in Hebron in 1940, Dakota Community Bank and Trust has been your hometown bank. Our mission has been to provide modern banking convenience with old-fashioned hometown service. We've grown with the communities we serve through year-round events, countless sponsorships, and nearly 7,000 hours of volunteering each year. Learn more about our 80-year history at dakotacommunitybank.com.
Jeez, what a mess. Look at that. There's roof stuff everywhere. It's so embarrassing. Ruins the neighborhood. Come on, humans. Let's get this fixed.
Don't let your roof go to the dogs. Call America's Best Contractors for your free estimate.
Need a new woof?
After checking with the rest, go with the best. America's Best Contractors. 258-2412. Online at americasbestcontractorsincorporated.com.
For the greatest selection and full menu offering, it's the Four Seasons Restaurant and Ice Cream Parlor in Garrison. Succulent sandwiches, big breakfasts served all day, and delicious desserts. Easy access in and out for campers and RVs. The Four Seasons Restaurant at the top of Main Street, Garrison.
Are you a thrill seeker, sightseer, or day tripper? The Ford Bronco Sport SUV is built for you. Four Bears Casino is giving away a 2021 Ford Bronco Sport loaded with a ton of interior space, safari-style roof, smooth suspension for any terrain, and easy-to-clean surfaces. Qualify now just by playing your favorite slots at Four Bears Casino. Double points on Sundays. Also get in on Super Senior Wednesdays, slot turning Thursdays, and hot seats on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Spin into Four Bears Casino and Lodge for chances to win.
Some things in life are hard. That's why banking shouldn't be. Cornerstone Bank.
Welcome back to No Filter with Debbie on Beck. So I was really surprised to read this story, which is that the Vatican has said it is okay to use vaccines that are made in part of aborted material, and that it is okay to use a COVID-19 vaccine if it includes aborted material. Now, I'm not Catholic, I am Jewish, but I am pro-life. And I'm really surprised that they allowed this, because when you do allow stuff like this, then basically you're saying it's okay to have abortions and it's okay to use this material and these vaccines. Now, most of the COVID-19 vaccines do not use lines from fetal cells from aborted fetuses, but a lot of vaccines that we use every day in life do have that material. There's the rubella, the measles, mumps, a lot of those have aborted material, the stem cells from those fetuses in them. So I was really surprised that the Vatican said it was okay to do it. Sounds like maybe it's academic, since we know that most of the COVID-19 vaccines do not have that. And there's only 2 that have been approved in this country anyway. But still, I was a little taken aback and surprised. Now, you've probably seen this story. It's been all over the news this morning. Last night, I even saw it. That last Monday, there was a United flight from New Orleans to Los Angeles, and that a man died really about 20 minutes within minutes of the flight. And he was apparently looked very sick when he got on the plane. He was shaky, he was sweating, and they let him on. And United is under a lot of pressure and attack from people saying, including people that were on the flight, and people tried in vain and risked their lives to try and give this guy, to give him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, to do chest compressions, to try and revive him, and they were unfortunately unsuccessful. And we feel for this guy, but still, for this guy's family, but still, should he have gotten on the plane? They said he was visibly sick. I don't know if I would have gotten on a plane with a guy like that who's visibly sick, because we know that air on the plane is recirculated. There's only so much of it. I've been told that the air is clean, but sure, that's what they tell you. I don't know. They don't really know anything about COVID. So I don't know if it's cleaned in whatever they use to clean the air. I don't know what kind of filters they use. Who knows? But why did they let the guy on the plane? So some people say, oh, why didn't you take his temperature? Why don't you take people's temperatures? My response is this. You're flying. You already have to get to the airport fairly early to get through security, even now when fewer people are flying. It's a long slog to get to that plane and take off. So now they're going to be asked to take everybody's temperature. We know that you could have your temperature taken and be fine and not show up on the thermometer, on these thermometers that they point at your forehead. And then, like an hour later, you could be completely sick with COVID. So it's not going to do anything. You know how much longer that's going to take, and they're going to have to keep records. This is a big hassle. I think if somebody's visibly sick like that, they should go up to them and say, listen, you look visibly sick, and we can't let you fly. But you know what's going to happen when they do that? People are going to say, I wasn't that sick. I missed such and such because you wouldn't let me fly. And they're going to sue over it. Now, it's very hard to sue an airline. The boilerplate on your ticket and the notices you get, it's very hard to sue them. But still, I think it would be a nightmare if we required airlines to take temperatures of everybody. Now, what if you say, oh, just this guy that looks sick? I don't know. I think it would be a lot of, it's really not objective, it's really subjective, and it could be grounds to really just cause a lot of hassles and delays for everybody. This guy should not have gone on the flight. He looked like he didn't feel good. People saw him getting on the plane, and he died something like 20 minutes into it. So he shouldn't have gotten on that plane. I don't know that there's a solution to that. Now, I told you in the past shows recently about Chef Andrew Gruel. I really like this guy. This is a chef from California. He owns many restaurants around the world, many in the United States, called Slapfish. And he tweeted out this story. Look at that. The top 5 sources of COVID. Look at that. It's not a story, it's a graph. So this is from September to November. Household and social gatherings. You're not going to stop that. Healthcare delivery. That you're not going to stop. You have to do that. And that's the second highest. But it drops way down from 73.8%. Higher education, 2%. Education, employee, 1.5%. Restaurants, under 1.5%. And what is his point? His point is that maybe we should lock everyone in their house then, instead of locking up the restaurants. And he's absolutely right. And you know, we have to decide, when is this country going to reopen? Joe Biden in place as the president, that ain't going to happen. America is going to close down, and we are going to be out of business. And Yelp has reported already that 60% of businesses are permanently closed. 60%. And that's primarily in the restaurant and bar industry. They were affected the hardest. And, you know, I've told you about the vaccine and how they're doing this discrimination. Employers, the EEOC, Equal Employment Opportunities Commission, has ruled that employers can require employees to take the vaccine. How are they going to get it if they're white and they're not the priority? How's that going to happen? Good luck with that. That's the real discrimination suit that should go before the EEOC, but it's not. Nope, it isn't. All right, so you probably heard the stories that the new stimulus bill, the new COVID relief bill was passed. So what's in it? Well, everybody's going to get an additional $300 per week. So if you're making something like $400 almost in some states, then you will end up making something like almost $800. Good luck to businesses who are not paying their employees $800 a week. This, by the way, is going to go on for something like 50 weeks. I've heard 50, I've heard 52. It's going to go on for a year. If you're a business, you're not paying your employees $800 a week, more than $800 a week. In fact, they're not going to work for you. That is not good. The stimulus checks, why $600 this time instead of $1,200? Because it's a lot of money to pay everybody $1,200. And they want people to go back to work. There are jobs out there. Maybe not the job you want. You don't want to work at Target or Amazon, but there are jobs out there. So there's that. There's also relief in terms of some industries. Independently owned movie theaters are going to get some stimulus because I understand that. They're independent, it's not Hollywood, and they need to stay open. There's an eviction moratorium, extends till January 31st. There's $25 billion in emergency assistance to renters. There's $82 billion set aside for colleges. And I am so mad about that, and I'll tell you why when we talk about what Governor Burgum is doing. There's $10 billion for child care. This is a lot of waste here. So there's COVID vaccine assistance, there's tax relief, and there's a lot more, but those are the main things. All right, when we come back, I'll tell you what Governor Burgum is doing with regard to COVID, and I do agree with him on these two things, but I have some questions. And we'll talk about this woman that Joe Biden is appointing to the Department of Interior.